Thanks, Erica. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Eriko from Regulatory Support Office. I work with Resija Nambia to support clinicaltrial.gov reporting. So today I'm finishing up on how-to series on clinicaltrial.gov. So we talked about how to register and report results in ct.gov, and then I introduced resources that are available in our website. And Resija talked about how and when to do the annual updates and how and when to modify the existing ct.gov record. So last few research matters, we have been talking about how to avoid common pitfalls. So we discussed first 10 common pitfalls and gave tips and recommendations to avoid common mistakes. And so I am finishing up on this series with last but the most troublesome pitfall during ct.gov registrations. So which is unclear outcome measure. So as you know, there are 12 sections to complete when you do the ct.gov registration. So most sections are straightforward, but outcome measure section, which is today's topic, is difficult for some people and then often come back with stipulation. So I think this section is a little bit difficult because NIH does has a very rigid or I guess scientifically rigorous definition of outcome and an outcome measure, and has very specific requirement for how they want to phrase the outcome measure. So, but before that, I want to review why do we have to register outcome measure first. I think it's important to understand why. So, you know, there is several reasons. So this can be from ethical obligation to research participants, right? And in 2013, Declaration of Helsinki has called for registering every research study involving human subject and the outcome measure results. And the design of all studies should be publicly available. So ct.gov is a place for that. We also have obligation to be transparent with our study. So ct.gov, again, is a place for that. So the trial needs to have a high scientific validity, right? Both internal and external. Trials should be able to be replicated, which requires defining clear outcome measure or endpoint. Reporting of the results should not be just cherry picked, right? All guidance and clinical decisions should be based on the evidence. So historically speaking, we have seen it in clinical trial that there has been cherry picking the data. For example, scientists, largely from pharma industry, changed the outcome endpoint in order to cherry pick the data and then hiding unfavorable result. So in response to that, Congress took this issue seriously, and outcome reporting is now required by law for applicable clinical trial. And if your study gets audited by the FDA, and if your trial is out of compliance, you will be facing serious monetary and civil consequences. So I have not seen one yet at UT Southwestern, but FDA started issuing a pre-notice letter of non-compliance to the PI at other institutions since last August. And if you want to publish clinical trial results, so today over 3,000 journals follow ICMJ policy, so which is a publication policy, which require clinical trial to be registered before the first patient enroll. Otherwise, your submission will be rejected. And say you did register, right? So, but very important to note that journal editors are comparing original outcome measures that were reported in the ct.gov and outcome measure reported in the manuscript. And if journal editor identify any discrepancy between manuscript and ct.gov entry, which will raise a red flag for publication bias, so only reporting favorable significant outcome. So editor will be asking you for the explanation for the discrepancy. And reporting accurate outcome measures in ct.gov also gives a unique opportunity to do the secondary analysis. Because the results of these trials are publicly available, so many scientists around the world are conducting secondary analysis using your data. So you really want to report only accurate information there. And there are many other regulatory bodies are requiring reporting outcome measures accurately and timely for funding, billing, publication purpose. So I want to highlight NIH. So if you are submitting NIH grant application using Form F, so formerly known as a Form Z, so same outcome measure questions are asked in the form, and it has to be matched with one in the ct.gov registration. So that I hope that I convince you that reporting outcome measure accurately and timely are very, very important. So when you do the ct.gov registration, just remember that publication policy, Congress, and other outside communities are keeping eyes on institution and research group on the listing outcome measures and results reporting in ct.gov accurately and timely. So now we know why, right? So let's talk about outcome measure section. So at the time of ct.gov registration, before you enroll any participants, you are required to list primary and secondary outcomes that are pre-specified in the IRB protocol. So for each outcome, it must include title, description, and time frame. So starting with tip for outcome title. So for outcome title, you need to enter what will be measured, not why. So include the metric and unit information if you can. So for example, if you just say safety of drug A or something, it will not be accepted because it's not clear how you are assessing the safety of drug A. So you need to revise to say safety as measured by number of participants with at least one adverse event, or you can say serious adverse event, something like that. That will be accepted. Tip 2, so title needs to be clear and concise, and you got to omit verbs. So to assess, to evaluate, to determine, you got to remove that because outcome is a noun. So it's different from protocol aim and objective, right? So what I have seen is that investigator or coordinator puts protocol objective, such as we aim to assess the safety of drug A. So that will not be accepted. Outcome measure, again, is a quantifiable study endpoint and should usually have the number in the context. So again, don't just copy protocol aim from the protocol because protocol may not be written to allow cut and pasting into ct.gov. Tip 3, list outcomes separately. So do not list multiple outcomes together. Do not collapse in one line. So in this example, you can list all-cause mortality, hospitalization, ER visit in one outcome line. Each outcome must enter separately, as shown. However, there could be exception if a composite score of multiple measures being used. So in that case, the correct way of writing this specific outcome will be count of individual who experience any of the following, all-cause mortality, and so on. So that will be accepted. So now, outcome description. So here you need to describe how this outcome that you just said in the title is being assessed and quantified. So this does not mean like lab techniques or detailed statistical analysis method. It just means how are you counting what you're measuring? So the tip 1 will be, so a lot of outcome uses scale. Then if that's the case, include the full unabbreviated name of the scale because ct.gov required this information. So in this case, for this outcome, you need to say number of participants who experience higher or equal to grade 3 AE as defined by CTCAE, and put version, so version 5. Sorry, but it really needs to be this specific. So you can't just say instance of serious adverse event. That will not be accepted by NIH reviewer. So tip 2, if a score will be used, and then you need to include what the score measures, the range of possible score, and then the meaning of the score. For example, if you're reporting change in pain score using VAS scale, so visual analog scale, description should say VAS scale is a validated subjective measure for acute and chronic pain, range from 0 to 100 and higher score indicating greater pain. So you need to include possible range of score and measure of that specific score. So here's the template that you can use for description. If you're using scale or score for the outcome, please use them. So now tips for the outcome time frame. So this is a little tricky one. You need to describe the specific time point when you will collect the outcome measure data, not the duration of the trial. So you gotta be specific, again, specify the time points when you collect the data, and then not the visit name. So you can't just say end of the trial, post-intervention. That will not be accepted. You need to say week 3 or approximately week 3. So it needs to be very, very specific. Tip 2, if the measure is assessed in relation to an event. For example, this outcome is assessed after surgery. So you need to specify the time in relation to that event. So you need to say day 1, comma, immediately after surgery. You can't just say after surgery. It will come back with stipulation. And then sometimes you are measuring same outcome at multiple time points. So generally, you need to list multiple time points as separate outcome measures unless you are assessing change in outcome between 2 time points. So baseline and then maybe after intervention, or you're assessing the outcome over time. So for using previous example, say your outcome is change in pain score before and after intervention. So you would put in the time frame section baseline, comma, and week 6 or something for time frame. So for those outcome assessed over time, such as time to event types of outcome using survival analysis, then you can say something like hospital admission until discharge, comma, assess up to 28 days. Otherwise, you would need to divide the outcome and then list the outcome separately with the specific time points. Here's the template for the time frame. And so these are examples of commonly used time to event outcome, such as overall survival. So please use this template language for time to event outcomes because they often come back with stipulation. And then these descriptions are just, same, right? Just change the version number, stuff like that. And here are more common examples for your reference, which include commonly used outcome for phase 1 trial. So now let's quickly review ct.gov compliance metrics. So according to FEDA non-compliance trial tracker website, we had a little hiccup last month. So our compliance rate was down to 98% from 100%. But the study team immediately took action to resolve the issue. Record has been corrected and submitted to NIH. So hopefully we'll get back to 100% next month. So please note that UT Southwestern leaderships are periodically reviewing this website. This is a public website. And they are particularly interested in identifying repeated offenders, since this is, again, public website, so which really affects our academic institutions' reputation. Also, this website is, this only include compliance for FDA-regulated applicable clinical trial results only. So it does not capture all. So we created this table. So this shows overall real-time compliance for all UT Southwestern records. So basically, blue indicates total number of records registered by UT Southwestern investigator, and then green indicates record without any issue or record that are currently under ct.gov review. And then orange one is the non-FEDAP problem record, NIH problem record. And the red ones are the non-compliance one, which subject to civil and monetary penalties. So I think we're doing pretty good overall compared to previous fiscal years. So thank you all for your hard work to stay in compliance. So now I want to switch a gear and review the sponsor investigator support metrics. So as you know, Regulatory Support Office provides ct.gov support. We also provide IND, IDE, expanded access application support for UT Southwestern sponsor investigator. So if you want to learn more about our program, SI support program, here's a brief summary of our program. And please also check January Research Matter when we did the introduction to sponsor investigator support program. So at UT Southwestern, we have total of approximately 52 IND, active IND, and 4 IDE, which are held by UT Southwestern sponsor investigator. So right now, these figures are just the estimate. We're likely to increase once landscape analysis has been completed. So in February last month, our office assisted submission three IND, in which 1 IND was approved and 2 are in process right now. And then we also assisted with a couple amendments, and metrics to date is here. So it's since June 2021. That's when we formalized the program, and then we start maintaining the database for your reference. So I want to end with, so any ct.gov support related questions or assistance, please send email to ct.gov support inbox, or you can book a consultation with us. And here is a selected list of clinicaltrial.gov resource for your reference. And this is for sponsor investigator, IND, IDE, expanded access related question. Book a free consultation as well. And this is my last slide. So here's the selected list of resource for IND, IDE, EAP support. So this ends my presentation. Thank you so much for your attention. I will turn over to Liz. Thank you.
Erica, thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. That was a lot of information. So I do encourage the audience to go ahead and type in their questions now in the Q&A if they have anything. And we actually do have 2 questions for you, Erica. So I'm going to ask the first one. Can you clarify who is responsible for reporting outcome requirements on ct.gov? For example, if the pharmaceutical company is the sponsor, does the UT Southwestern PI have to report outcomes?
Yes, so that's a really good question. So usually if it's multi-site study sponsored by industry or pharmaceutical, typically it should be sponsored is the one. So pharmaceutical will be the responsible party unless they delegate to main site PI. So if sponsor like didn't say anything, I recommend PI to just double check to see if, okay, this looks like a clinicaltrial.gov registration require study, and then maybe reach out to us because maybe it's already registered by the sponsor, which you can check in the public website. So we can clarify, we can check for that, and then it's better to reach out to our office, and then we can just verify. And then we may ask, okay, this looks like it has not been registered. Check with sponsor, and then they will tell you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I have another question for you. Prior to protocol submission, does our office provide consultation to faculty to refine their outcome measures to ensure easy compliance?
Prior to protocol submission, I'm sorry, is that referring to IRB or to study team or to ct.gov? Prior to protocol submission, I guess I'm not understanding.
It's prior to registration. So
can our office consult? Oh yeah, yes, absolutely. We can definitely help. I mean, we can't write the protocol, study endpoint for the PI, but we can definitely give the template so that ct.gov, NIH reviewer will accept. So we can definitely give you the templates, which I include some of the common one today.
Great, thank you for that. And I do have one more. Does your office conduct a mandatory review of outcome measures?
Mandatory review of outcome measure in the ct.gov. Right now we are kind of self-service model, but we plan to start reviewing all study that before they can submit it to ct.gov. We are hoping to not so much of auditing, but to check to see that it will be accepted. But if you have any concern with outcome measure section, we're happy to take a look. So just reach out to us before PI submits. So maybe in the future, but we won't be auditing. We will be just helping study team to register so that it will be accepted.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm getting some great questions, and I do have one more. It's a question and a comment here. So does SI support submit amendments to the FDA on behalf of the SI? Our IND was recently approved last month, and FDA provided information to register for a next-gen portal.
We can definitely assist. Again, yes, so I think I would like to see the study in more detail, but our office, one thing is we need to monitor all IND activities. So definitely, whoever wrote that question, reach out to us, and then we'll help you, and then we'll also monitor. We'll definitely help you out with the amendment to FDA.
Okay, thank you so much, Erica. For the sake of time, we're going to jump into our next presentation. Again, if you guys have any questions out there in the audience, please do keep them coming. And Liz, you are welcome to get your presentation going.
Thank you, Erica. Can you see my slides?